Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're doing really well. We're back here. It's 3 at the back. I think it's episode 4, and it is the international break. I am sick, but secretly loving the fact that I've seen Benjamin Bloom's face again, and we are joined by Matt SB as well this week. Matt, I'll come to you first because I know how Ben's doing already. How are you, my friend? How are you finding the international break? You enjoying it?
No, I hate it, honestly. I do. And always the first one as well. It comes so early, doesn't it? But we touched on this last week, so I won't repeat myself. The Premier League is back this weekend, so that's the main thing. And big managerial news to touch on as well. So, yeah, looking forward to talking some football today.
Yes, we have some big managerial bits to talk about today, everybody. The ripple effect and, of course, the winners and losers so far in the Premier League. So stick with us till the end. Ben, this is one of 3 international breaks. How on earth are we going to get through the next 2, my friend?
With great class, dignity, and patience, and a lot of moaning. But yeah, I always have October kind of down as managerial graveyard, particularly in Championship land. But there is the September one that can activate the red button for owners, especially if they are the erratic kind.
Indeed. Now, I always kind of like it when we talk about stuff like this, Ben, and you're always saying chaos can come from the top down, and yeah, I guess in a strange sort of way. And obviously, we're going to touch on the obvious, the big elephant in the room, not literally, of course, but it is Marinakis sacking Nuno Espírito Santos. So I think it's Santo, isn't it? Not Santos, but yeah, a big managerial change, 3 in, and we were speaking about managerial chopping and changes very recently, actually. Matt, has this one come as a shock to you? There's been a lot of language over the past, I'd say, sort of maybe 4 to 5 months when it comes to Marinakis, and when it comes to Nuno very recently publicly saying that there has been a deterioration in their relationship. Has this come as a surprise to you, mate, or not?
A couple of months ago, yes, it would have been one of the biggest surprises just because of how well he's performed at Nottingham Forest. But given what we've seen recently, no. We know that Marinakis can be quite unforgiving, but I think after what Nuno said in the press conference, where they sort of aired the dirty laundry, it only felt like it was going to go one way. And then, of course, on top of that, a 3-0 home defeat to West Ham. I don't know, just something was brewing at Forest, wasn't it? You could tell things weren't right. And like I say, it's not in Nuno's characteristics to do what he did in the press conference and say what he had to say about the relationship with Marinakis. And yeah, like I say, it's happened, unfortunately. And it's a shame because, like I say, a couple of months ago, I wouldn't have seen it coming. He came in, December 23? Obviously, Steve Cooper was big boots to fill. I know that, he only just kept keeping them in the Premier League, and going into the second season, they were sort of treading water, I guess, but he was so loved by the Forest fans for getting them up. So Nuno went into there and he's done amazing, to keep them up in that season when they had a points deduction, and then the following season to have them chasing down Liverpool at the top of the table and then still finishing in Europe. It's a shame for Nuno that he's not going to be able to see it through now going into Europe. But no, the question was, did I see it come in? And based on the recent weeks, I did, yeah.
Ben, he signed a contract in 2025 to see him through till 2028 in 30 indeed. Nice little bit of compensation. Take the family on holiday, or 2 or 3 or 4. In 30 years, it's been Forest's best finish. I think he's done a pretty good job there, hasn't he? He can leave with his head held high.
Yeah, very much so. And he was massive favourite with Wolves, wasn't he, in the Championship? But then did a really good job in the Premier League, didn't he? I think they were consistently in the top 10 at Spurs for a cup of tea. Yeah, you can make the argument that Burnley, Luton and Sheffield United were crap and that he was going to survive if he did an okay job at Forest the first season. But mate, they were superb last season, Forest, weren't they? Really, really good. Which then brings us to this why it's kind of happened. And I've got the Forest website open here. I didn't realize this was this recent. 7th of July, 2025. That's 64 days ago. Edu appointed global head of football. Do you know what one of those is? A newly established leadership role. That is the Forest website saying that, overseeing football operations. A quote from Mr. Marinakis on the 7th of July says, "We're extremely happy to welcome Edu to our football family. His global experience, values and winning mindset align perfectly with our objective to strengthen and expand our international football platform. And what I'm understanding, Connor, is, you do the maths. Edu turns up and Nuno is not required anymore. So it strikes me as some executive has been put between you and your boss, and you're fired.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And when it comes to the tension of Marinakis and Ben, you were just talking about Edu there. When was that date wise?
7th of July.
7th of July.
64 days.
Yeah. So you're kind of looking at it right now, and the tension, it feels, has been palpable, really, from a Forest standpoint very recently. And obviously it's got to fever pitch when Nuno came out, and as I've just mentioned there, effectively said their relationship had deteriorated. 3-0 loss to West Ham. I was speaking with friends the other day as well. It did feel at that point, with the relationship that we just mentioned had kind of gone downhill, it felt like there was almost a point of which he was ready to press that big red button, Matt.
What's that, Marinakis? Yeah, well, he's a difficult boss to work for, maybe. Well, we don't know him personally, but from what we're led to believe by some people, I guess, got to be careful.
I know, Neil.
Let's not forget, actually, towards the end of last season, when there was the incident in the Forest Leicester game where was it Awoniyi smashes into the post, and it all blew.
Can't blame Edu for that one, can we?
No, but Gary Neville was saying about the way Marinakis spoke to Nuno on the pitch, how unprofessional it was, and then Forest came out and said, no, it was just because he was so concerned for the player, and the medical staff didn't do what they were supposed to, and it's maybe you're always sort of on eggshells at Nottingham Forest. It's a tense one, but look, this is me saying that Marinakis is ambitious. I'm not trying to slag him off. I think he's very, very ambitious and very calculated, actually, if you look at this, because obviously when they were in the Championship, he wanted them to get to the Premier League. And how do you get into the playoffs? Well, have a look at Steve Cooper, 2 playoffs out of 2 at Swansea. So he did the job. And then how do you climb the Premier League table? Nuno had got Wolves 7th place 2 seasons running, get him through the door. And then when you're in the Europa League, you might want a manager who can win it. And maybe we'll come on to Ange Postecoglou shortly.
That is the best defence of Mr. Marinakis I've ever heard. I almost believe now that he's not an erratic owner, Matt. That makes some sense when you lay it out like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's his methods, though, isn't it? I suppose, where it might come across brutal because Cooper was so loved and Nuno was so loved, but there may be his method behind the madness.
I get it. I get it from an optics perspective. I understand it. I'm just not sure that the replacement is the person that is going to be able to get you to that next level. I think when you look at the pros, we can look at decisiveness, which I've criticised my club before of not being decisive enough. And I think I love this almost ruthless approach that Marinakis has. I think it's brilliant. It rules over sentiment. Postecoglou, as Matt's quite rightly said, is a European champion. Will that then attract higher profile players if Postecoglou's through the door? I guess once again that the general football knowledge would tell you, and the football world would tell you that will happen. The timing of it,
unless you do it a week after the transfer window's closed, Connor.
Maybe some of these players who were recruited weren't the players that Nuno wanted in. It was from a bit more of a general standpoint. And maybe the timing right now is perfect, right? 3 games in, he's had a bad result against West Ham United. 3 games in, it's more than enough time to find those objectives and to be able to, I don't know where Marinakis is thinking this season, obviously with Europe on the cards and the squad being relatively stretched because of this, and obviously a new realm for Forest, or a newer realm for Forest, and where his objectives are. Does he think that they're going to finish in the top 7, top 8? Are they going to improve? So I think the timing on that is pretty perfect because it's very early on in the season. Ben, a lot of people might say there's a lot of pros here.
They might, and they might end up being right. It's so difficult, Connor, because if you've got something that's essentially working and has been successful and then stops, you will never be able to disprove that wouldn't have continued to be successful. Obviously, in the reality we're all living in, it's over, it's done, and they're moving on. But you're right, it's quite the shift. And I think if we picked out who was, well, you might be able to run this argument with both managers. Which two managers in the Premier League were literally the most different stylistically last season? It's probably these two, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we praised Forest massively for being great defensively, and Murillo and Milenkovic, who were allowed to defend the edge of their box and head it, kick it. Well, what are they now going to be 15 metres further forward and 5 metres further apart? You know,
they'll be defending the edge of their half now, Ben.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
Matt Sells. He's such an important point. It's Matt Sells now. He's from a direct goalkeeper. Is he now going to be asked to play the ball out to Murillo and Milenkovic?
Mate, we had that at Ipswich. We had a guy, Białkowski, who, if you stuck defenders right in front of him, was amazing. And if you split the centre halves and tried to play out, was atrocious. Bless him. He just could. He was a goalkeeper who knew how to keep goal with a back four right in front of him, as opposed to, you know, kind of developing the play from the back. So yeah, it seems a very big departure. You say, when you were speaking, Connor, and you said it's ruthless, I tried to write down two examples of managerial change, because I wrote Nigel Adkins to Maurizio Pochettino at Southampton, where everyone said, "What are you doing? That's brutal. That's ruthless." And then a year later, everyone said, "Oh, that was a genius move, wasn't it?" And then I wrote down John Eustace to Wayne Rooney at Birmingham last season, where, as much as I tried to defend Wazza because I absolutely loved him as a player, that was supposed to be what did Gary Cook say, Matt? I can't remember the quote. Front foot football or brave foot. There was some stupid pithy quote or something, and yeah, Birmingham then got relegated and sacked Rooney after a couple of months. So I can give you a really good example of this working, and I can give you a really bad example of this not working. But how do you feel about that squad at large, kind of being able to play Postecoglou stuff? And if Postecoglou football was going to work, wouldn't it have worked at Spurs with arguably a more expensive squad? I could be wrong about that.
Well, it did, Ben. They won the Europa League.
Well, and can I just and let me piggyback on that as well.
And finished where, Matt? 16th, 17th, was it?
They stayed up.
I think there's two different things to talk about here. I think when you look at the Europa League run, it was quite interesting, because obviously when they went and picked up huge wins against Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt, which, you know, in particular Frankfurt, who Frankfurt's home record was outstanding last season. I think going there, you saw strangely, and I do, because I remember watching them and thinking, why is this so different to the Premier League? There was a low block and counter-attacking football. I think Spurs went there, they drew 1-1 in Frankfurt, got a result, or I can't remember if it was a win after. I'll check that out, but I know they got two good results. It might have been 1-0 or 1-1. I'll check that after this, but it was a really good result out there. And there was a different side of Tottenham Hotspur. And then in the Premier League, there was, you know, Tottenham fans saying, why can't we adapt, and why can't we do that in the Premier League, where it was so sort of one-dimensional? I was saying to you guys off air, it is the Australian Marcelo Bielsa. He's very rigid, very stuck to his principles. And maybe Spurs fans actually wanted him to be more rigid in playing style. So, yeah, Europe was very different, it felt, to the Premier League, and it felt there was all his eggs were in that European basket. That's how it came across as well, and maybe he was focusing on that a little bit more.
I wonder if they're going to prioritise the Europa League this season, because maybe the thinking is, how many more shots at Europe are we going to get over the next couple of seasons? And you can see, obviously, Marinakis was keen to get Forest into the Europa and Palace into the conference. So
they did win. They did win in Frankfurt, by the way, 1-0. So there you go.
There you go. But I can't help but think that Ange coming in is because they're in the Europa. Surely, I mean, obviously, yeah, more exciting style of play, but it wasn't that their style of play last season wasn't working. It got them 7th place. So. Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a big push on the Europa League from Forest this season. And I know, was it in the victory parade at the end of last season that Ange said season 3 is always better than season 2. Obviously, he hasn't got season 3 at Tottenham, but he has still got his season 3 in the Premier League and in England. So maybe he'll deliver big things with Nottingham Forest.
But there's subtext. Sorry, Connor. Was there subtext, Matt, in what you were saying there about concentrating on the Europa League, that Forest would think there's absolutely no danger of them being embroiled in any bother if it goes really wrong.
Dangerous.
Well, yeah, like you said though, Ben, they finished 17th last season. That's Tottenham as well, who we never would have thought in our wildest dreams would finish 17th. So I suppose they've got to be cautious of how they perform in the Premier League as well. And we've already seen the teams that have come up from the Championship getting off to decent starts. So maybe an unexpected team could be sucked in, and Forest fans will definitely not want it to be them.
And we've also mentioned on this podcast, and I think there's a general understanding as well, that it feels like if there is to be one season, this feels like that season, because there are so many teams in transition, and obviously so many teams have European football, that at least one of the teams coming up might be able to catch them. I think the interesting side of this is, look, we can talk about, effectively a bit of a dogmatic approach in Europe, but I think when you kind of look at the Premier League overall, I mean, these were stopgap managers Spurs had before Ange Postecoglou, and there was an 8th place finish, there was a 4th place finish, a 5th place finish. It felt very transitional, and then obviously Ange came in, and there was an ideology that this was going to be the long-term guy. There's a lot of investment in his squad as well, and it feels like right now with Nuno, we all know what Nuno's about, but from Wolves to Forest, there is a pragmatic counter-attacking style manager, and I would say maybe he's suited better to Nottingham Forest than many teams in the Premier League. I don't know if that squad is set up now, especially with Europe, to be under a manager who's maybe as tactically naive and principled and one-dimensional as Ange Postecoglou. If I was Forest and I was able to maybe drag, this would never have happened, but drag Glasner away or drag Marco Silva away. If I'm a Forest fan now, I'm looking at it and thinking, yeah, okay, there's maybe an element of pragmatism there. I'm a little bit worried if I'm a Forest fan looking at Postecoglou coming in and replacing Nuno at this moment in time.
Connor, it's interesting you mentioned those names. So if you want to be in that world and tell me where you'd rank Postecoglou, I really like him, actually, just in terms of how he presents himself. But it's very poor to have Spurs so low in the league, in spite of Matt fairly pointing out that
13 points off relegation, mate. 13 points off relegation. That was all it was.
But
wasn't it a point per game though? They're around 40 points, weren't they?
But it's Spurs, isn't it? They were in the European Cup final. When was that with Poch? 2019, possibly. And they could have won titles. In the last. I mean, the Leicester one, they could have won that. Couldn't they? I know we're going back 10 years now. But no, the point I was going to make, Connor, is if you're in that area in the title, you are competing against Iraola, Howe, Emery, Glasner maybe a bit above there. Silva, you mentioned. How do you compare Ange to those managers?
I think those managers have. I mean, I sound like a hypocrite here, and I feel like I'm contradicting myself. But obviously, you saw a little bit of it when it came to the latter stages of the Europa League for me, in terms of him adapting slightly. I think a lot of those managers have tactical flexibility. I think that's the key difference here. I think Postecoglou came out plenty of times in Premier League post-matches and pre-match conferences and said, I will not be changing my style. I will not be changing. This is the way the owners back me. The players all understand my way. This will be so interesting because the squad makeup is so different. The squad makeup is so different. It was adapted. And it was set up for Nuno. And we know they've spent 100 million quid this window. And maybe the profiles that have been brought in, Amari Hutchinson, Ben, who you might be able to speak of in a system like this. The likes of James McAtee coming in.
Didn't make the squad for Europe, Hutchinson, I believe.
Right, yeah. Okay, there you go. Maybe not then.
I could be wrong about that.
It's an interesting take, by the way, how the players might feel about all of this, especially Morgan Gibbs-White, who was sort of, I believe he was tempted to stay by Nuno. I mean, obviously Marinakis would have had somewhat of a say as well. But I mean, what do the players think of all this?
With a gun in his spine as he was talking.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess overall, if you both to give your take, A, on Nuno leaving, and then B, on the appointment of Postecoglou as his successor. Would you say that it was a good move for Forest overall, Ben?
Oh, you can't separate the two, Connor, can you? Because the styles are so different. But then if he replaced Nuno with a manager who was going to do exactly the same thing as what Nuno was doing, then why would the fallout have happened in the first place? So in some ways, the only way we could get to this situation would end with a completely different manager. Just please, in the comments, guys, if there's an example of a club bringing in a global head of football operations and pivot in style in season with the transfer window closing and it working, just let me know. And I'd love to see it. I bloody love Forest. I love going and seeing the Brian Clough video.
Maybe it was the general recruitment, Ben. Maybe it was the fact that they've gone on a general stance when it's come to recruitment. Maybe this season it's not been that specific towards Nuno. Maybe that's been a little bit of a pointing towards something potentially happening.
Yeah, fair comment. Yeah, and yeah, you're right about that actually, Connor. Because if the recruitment is in front of the managerial change, that's kind of the right way round to do it, isn't it? It's no good having the manager for 3 months if the styles then can't. If you can't hire the new players 4 months down the road, it's a lot of time to do it. So yeah, that's a good point. It's a gamble.
And then Ben, if you're 3 games into the season, and we've said it's the best timing. I guess it could have been done after the West Ham game at the start of the international break, but also and you've got maybe 2 weeks to fit a completely different style of football in, at least, even though these players, like we were speaking about yesterday, are largely going to be on international duty. But this is Ange Postecoglou's style of football. It's so different, isn't it, to what we're used to? So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. It's going to be a good roller coaster of a ride, though. It's Forest haven't got that certainty now, which maybe I had them at the start of the season. Who knows?
All I'd say is there's when a new manager is announced and when he was spoken to and hired are often 2 very, very different timelines. And we are dealing with Mr. Marinakis here, and we've had managers passing each other in the car park, one on the way in, one on the way out. Before, it's a very big gamble. That's all I'll say. And yeah, proof will be in the pudding.
I do feel a bit mixed on it, because if I try and separate the two, because it broke last night that Nuno was going, and I honestly, as much as I like Nuno, I wasn't that worried, because I thought to myself, well, I felt strongly about Cooper being there, the sentiment that the fans felt towards him, but it proved to be a masterstroke when Nuno came in. So I feel like Forest will be able to replace Nuno well. About Ange coming in, though, I'm just a bit mixed. I'm not going to be too negative and say, this is awful. And I do want the Forest fans to give him a chance. But
Spurs did lose at home to Ipswich last season, Matt.
I'm sure Forest did the double over Tottenham last season as well, actually.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
I don't know. Like you
said, can I ask one question? Sorry, Matt. Can I ask one question to both of you? If nothing changed at Forest and they kept Nuno and had the European football, where would they have finished in the Premier League this season with Chris Wood and with Morgan Gibbs-White and the 2 centre backs and Anderson now at England? Where would they have finished if they changed nothing?
12th.
I would say about 9th. But then
decent, then, yeah.
Yeah, decent. I just think it depends on how seriously each takes the Europa League, and I wonder if Ange is going to be more focused on that than Nuno would have been.
9th is an unbelievable finish, Matt, with Europe as well. It's an unbelievable finish.
But they were 7th last season, and I don't see Man United being much better than them this time around. You've got to work out which teams will maybe be ahead. Maybe a Palace, maybe a Tottenham might improve, but I still think top half would have been doable. And maybe it still is with Ange, but once again, it depends on how much they focus on the Europa.
Yeah, you're wondering if there's going to have to be some adaptation there now. There's going to have to be some adaptation, but we'll have to wait and see if Postecoglou does that. I can't see. But Forest fans, let us know in the comment section below, as always, if you're happy with this, if you're sad with this, and if we're all talking nonsense, or if you agree with one of us and and doesn't agree with the other one. Right, lads, we're going to move on quickly as well to the winners and losers so far in the Premier League. So I think this is going to be a segment as well where we talk about the teams that, to just finish off with today. We're going to be speaking about the teams that have impressed us in the Premier League so far and who might go on to have a pretty decent season. I want to throw one into the mix, fellas. I want to talk about Everton for a little bit. I think Everton have had a brilliant start. Obviously, we know they lost to Leeds United on the first day of the season, but it felt like that squad cohesion wasn't quite there. They hadn't built up maybe the relationships yet. They didn't quite get the best of Tieno Barry on the day and Beto on the day, but still you saw the attacking imprint there of Jack Grealish and Dewsbury Hall and Iliman Ndiaye, and it feels like Everton are really building into potentially a team that are going to finish maybe in the top 7, top 8, maybe even higher. Benjamin Bloom, who knows?
Well, that's just ridiculous when we just had a conversation about a pragmatic manager, who can get the best out of the squad, and we're now going to praise Everton, who are going to use a pragmatic manager to, finish high up the league. It just annoys me, Connor, isn't it? Oh, we want a different style of football. It's sport. Just win. Do you know what I mean? Just win. And whether that's with David Moyes or whether that's with, Marcelo Bielsa or whoever, whatever the style is. But yeah, they'll be solid. Tarkowski and Keane, Reed. I know it's not supposed to be a direct comparison to the previous segment, but and then, can you provide the basis, just a wall? And then if the other side of that wall, you've got Grealish and Jai and Dewsbury Hall making things happen, all of a sudden it starts to look good, doesn't it? I mean, it's going to be very, very competitive up there. So where they are right now is viable. I did wonder, actually, whether Moyes got a big bounce last year and they might drop off a little bit, but according to the first little block of games, I will be wrong about that. So great start. And I mentioned a couple of shows ago, I love Grealish. It's great to see him at it again.
Yeah, it's a good run, actually, Ben. Like you mentioned, the end to last season as well, when they went away to Newcastle and got results. And they picked up some great results towards the end of last season, and they've kept that going into the start of this season with a few additions. I know you've got Jack Grealish posters in your bedroom, Ben. Obviously, he's been great. Dewsbury Hall, and then Tieno Barry, and like I said before, there's a feel-good factor around the place with the new stadium as well. So I could definitely see them having a good season.
Yeah, it was a really good window, wasn't it, as well, for them? Probably the best window they've had in a number of years. New stadium, as I said, just big summer as well. It feels like the mood is definitely lifting on Merseyside, especially with the addition of Tyler Diblin as well. We forgot about mentioning him. So nice. I saw
him against Ipswich. He's massive as well, Connor.
It's a big lad. Yeah.
You think, because his name sounds like dribbling. And he's Diblin literally sounds like dribbling. You're expecting him to be 5'4" and running around, but he's that.
It's very sort of like Downton Abbey, isn't it? You've got Diblin, and then you've got
Gareth Bale, and you've got Downton Abbey.
You've got Diblin living in Dewsbury Hall, not in that way, but
there it is.
Smut.
What is that drum? There you go. That's a private joke from before the show started. Yeah. But, no, it's. I've completely lost my train of thought now. Shall we move on away from dribbling?
Let's move on to dribbling in Dewsbury Hall. But Matt, so far for you as well, mate. Who has been? Do you want to touch on another winner so far in the Premier League? 'Cause I think there's been a fair few, hasn't there, mate, so far?
Yeah, I've got to give Sunderland credit. Coming up from the Championship through the playoffs as well, and to have such a good start. I know you can make the argument they've had a soft start with the fixtures and the games are going to get harder as they go, but to pick up 2 wins from the first 3 is really incredible, especially against the background of the last couple of seasons.
8 wins to go, Matt.
8 wins to go. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, they've got a real chance, haven't they? They've got a real chance, and they've built up a buffer now as well. They've got a breathing space. So, I mean, against West Ham, it was just the perfect game plan, wasn't it? Absorbing the pressure and hitting them 3 times. Against Burnley, I mean, I suppose we spoke about that. If the chance in the first half was at Moyende, if that goes in, you never know. You might get something from that. I don't think the Sunderland fans will care too much that they went out of the Carabao Cup, by the way, just to throw that in there. All the focus is on the Premier League. And then that win against Brentford in the last minute before the international break. We said that they've had a brilliant window and they've also had a brilliant start. So, yeah, Sunderland have been brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant win. And let's just have a quick look at the next fixtures. Palace away, never easy, but still. Sunderland then play Aston Villa at home, Forest away, Ange Postecoglou's Nottingham Forest. Then you got Manchester United away, Wolves at home. So you're kind of looking at the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and still they're yet to play anyone really.
You get me another 2 wins out of that, Connor?
I think you get another 2 wins out of that. I think you're targeting Wolves at home, aren't you? You're targeting Villa or Forest. Could you even go and target Manchester United? Who knows? We don't know what scenario they're at. We never know. But it's been we're speaking about the fast start and the sort of kind set of fixtures that Sunderland have got. You kind of look at the first 4 or 5. The first time they're playing a team really in the top 6 is 25th of October, which will be in and around game week 10 or 11. Then it gets a little bit more difficult. But Ben,
I'll tell you what, Connor.
Sorry, go on, mate. Go on.
No, if you look at their December, they'll want a few points on the board before those games come around. If you look at
Don't do that.
yeah, 100%. But it's those that start's been kind to them, hasn't it, Ben? But they've started to pick it up in a different way. It's a different pressure, isn't it?
Well, it's always nice when you've won 2 of your first 3. All of a sudden, you look at the fixtures as opportunities, and Matt and I found very depressingly doing this last year that when you're losing game after game after game, you just look at every other fixture as an impossibility rather than an opportunity. So far, so good. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that promoted teams can then go 2 months without winning a game, scoring a point. It does happen, and what we don't want from Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley is for this to be the peak, and it was nice while it lasted, and we got to international break 1, which is only 3 blooming games. And then, it's fair enough. What did they used to say? Come down with the decorations at Christmas. But, we're in September, so we just want some hope. And Sunderland particularly, I'll mention Leeds clean sheets. I know you feel slightly differently about that, Connor, but I have seen hope from all 3 of the.
Are you going with Leeds? Are you going Leeds as a winner? Are you going with Leeds as a winner so far?
In the respect that we've spoken about Nuno and about how useful pragmatism is, and maybe how useful he might be for a team that's been promoted that might change managers during the season. But we wanted to see it from Farke. We don't know how viable it is yet, but. I think you would have been surprised, Connor, if I would have said there'd been 2 clean sheets from the first 3 games, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Definitely, mate. Should we move on to the losers? And, God, it's harsh, isn't it? 3 games.
Can I do one?
You want to do a loser? Oh, yeah, Ben, you jump ahead, mate. You harsh critic. Go on.
I'm going to be a harsh critic of the GOAT. Is Pep Guardiola still the GOAT? Because the greatest of all time has lost 2 of his first 3 games. And we mentioned Barcelona 2007. And you do forget, he's been at this a hell of a long time at the top, winning every single season. And there's going to be a point where the GOAT is not the GOAT anymore and somebody else takes the crown. And it's how football works, isn't it? It's how life works. We replenish and recycle. And it's just been a surprising start. They won the first game 4-0, Man City. And I'm like, 90 points incoming in a 38-game league. And then, back-to-back defeats. So just how are you feeling about Pep?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's evidently a bit of a stress there. They're in a transition again. It feels like they've been in a transition for a while now, doesn't it? I think the different midfield is always a way to get around. It takes time. I think the interesting one is Donnarumma coming in. I mean, Enrique's got rid of him because he can't play out from the back. And now Manchester City, Pep Guardiola is looking to bring in a goalkeeper who's not known to play out from the back and not be great with his feet, which is obviously part of the modern era of which Pep introduced with Edison. So yeah, that is an interesting one when it comes to it. I mean, I think I think Liverpool have just moved So like quite far ahead now. I think Arsenal still looks strong, and they're obviously building up that continuity as well. Yeah, I agree with Ben. I mean, what is, when you're looking at it, Matt, what is loser-ish for Manchester City? Is it third position? It probably is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, second. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised. I'm surprised by this because how good were they against Wolves in that opening game? I know it was only one game, but we saw all the new signings. Reinders and Cherky and Haaland was firing, and you thought, here we go.
Reinders looked unbelievable, didn't they?
Oh yeah,
they looked so good. And then I don't even want to look. Yeah, okay, a couple of difficult games with Tottenham and Brighton, but this is Man City we're talking about. I'm not going to make the excuse of difficult games because they're going for the title and they're already 6 points behind Liverpool. And how many games are Liverpool going to lose this season? Two or three, maybe. As the Manchester derby coming this weekend, everyone's criticising Man United. But Man United come into this game above Man City in the table. So, Pep's got to get back to winning ways. With Donnarumma, by the way, I wonder if that's like a safety net to go behind Trafford now, because Trafford, like you say, better...
Imagine to help him. Imagine training with that dude. Be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I know Trafford has made one or two little mistakes. I suppose Donnarumma can come in if that becomes more of a problem. But, it doesn't really work with their style of football, but we'll see.
Can I just make a quick correction? Although people who write angry comments on YouTube will have already written the angry comment and not listened to my correction here. I didn't mean Barcelona 2007, I meant Barcelona 2009 because I just looked it up. Pep literally didn't manage them until 2008. So there you go. But you've already yelled at me and screamed and cried in the comments. So what can I do?
And I've already liked it and pinned it. So I'm gonna throw in there Wolves. I had Wolves having a really good season. I thought,
why?
At the very beginning, it was I guess Aït-Nouri and Cunha were done relatively early, but I was very much of the opinion that with that money they might have been able to. I mean, if they weren't keeping hold of them, which I thought at least Aït-Nouri would have stayed. Providing that width, I thought they'd have maybe invested that money a little bit better. Fer Lopez is coming from Celta Vigo, but there's not really been a Rocket. I mean, a Rocketaire's coming in from Genk, who's a big lad, 6'6", who's going to obviously help up top with Strand Larsen. But I mean, keeping him around, and obviously, Strand Larsen's going to be kept around, obviously, because he signed for them very recently. But I guess keeping him in the door, I don't think it was legal actually for him to move on this window. But him being around is still obviously a positive thing. I don't think they've invested enough. I think it still looks a little bit narrow, and they're missing X factor drastically for me. They're missing a lot in that midfield in particular. I don't look at them and think they're they've got that much vigor going forward as well, apart from Strand Larsen, but he needs a supply line. I don't know what that supply line is. I think they're going to struggle. I think Wolves are going to struggle this season. I don't know what you guys have got to say about that. But
I was going to choose Wolves, actually, Connor. Yeah, I did have them as a struggler, to be fair, this season. But, the early signs still aren't great. I mean, they're the only team on 0 points, so they have to be highlighted. I know they played Man City in the opening game, but then they've lost to Bournemouth. And it's the Everton at home one. I know we've credited Everton, but, if you can't... I mean, look, understandably, the top 6 teams, a lot of the time, they're going to beat you. But then if you can't beat the mid-tablers, a lot of pressure is piled on those head-to-head games down near the bottom. And I know Wolves have got Leeds United coming up soon, and it feels like Wolves have to win that. And if they don't, then the manager's under pressure. And it's a shame as well, because he had a really good win percentage in the second half of last season, but
I felt like Everton deserved it as well, Matt. I thought 3-2. Yeah. I thought it looked a lot more. I thought it looked a lot closer than that game actually was.
It flattered Wolves.
I thought Everton were well worth that win. Yeah.
Should we mention Villa, Connor? Because we've been fawning over Villa to come out of the EFL, and we felt a bit sorry for them when they kind of got the glass ceiling with PSR, and they looked like they were ready to go into the elite clubs and challenge there. And I don't know, it just feels like hopefully it's just a temporary thing for the Villa fans, but does it feel a bit fizzly this summer? Is that the right word for something fizzling out? Fizzly, I don't know if that's correct English, but they've started poorly, and I just don't associate that with 2025 Villa and Unai Emery. They don't do things poorly, do they?
No, very, very well-run club, as we've seen from Championship onwards, really. I quite like the deadline day business. I thought, Jadon Sancho coming in and, Harvey Elliott coming in was big as well. I think they've been strung a little bit, haven't they, with PSR, and they felt it a lot. I think losing Jacob Ramsey's massive. I really, really like Jacob Ramsey in that midfield. I think he can play a variety of systems. He's a good ball carrier. I think he's got a good technical level. I think the Aston Villa players didn't look pleased either. I know McGinn effectively came out and said, it's the current environment we're in that we have to sell Ramsey. We wouldn't have wanted to sell him. So, yeah, I think they've missed out on transfer targets as well, of which we're all very aware. Yeah, it's not been a great window, has it? Which we're not used to seeing with Aston Villa. So, yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how they develop this season, I think.
Obviously, goals are the problem. They're the only team in the Premier League yet to score. I made the point a week or two ago that because they've had a quiet window doesn't necessarily mean they've had a bad window, but this poor start to the season doesn't help my argument, does it? 0-0 against Newcastle on the opening day. To be fair, they were down to 10, so that's probably an all right result. But they lost to Brentford. Now, we gave Brentford credit, didn't we? But I wonder if we're going to look back on that in a little while and say, that was when Villa were really bad, and it's maybe a little bit of an outlier for where Brentford are concerned, because I know they've lost their other 2 games. But it's the defeat to Palace. And I know Villa always seem to struggle against Palace, but they were well and truly beaten, weren't they? And without goals, obviously, you're not going to win a game. So they've attacked that towards the end of the window with Elliott and Sancho coming in, and they need to start.
Still got Rodgers and Watkins though.
Well, they're just
Matt,
not doing anything.
Really enjoyed.
I don't think the plan was to ever let Ramsey go. I think the plan was how it looked like anyway from a PSR standpoint, that maybe Leon Bailey was looking to go, and then Emi Martinez. I think they probably saw that as maybe that Man United move, and that was what they planned throughout the window. And
Did
then
Martinez not go in the end?
No.
Oh my God, that passed me by on a very, very busy deadline day.
Yeah, I think they got a goalkeeper called Salmons, I think. But yeah, so I think that was kind of what they were expecting. It's just not planned out there at all, to be honest with you. But Emi Martinez is an interesting scenario now, and how this will work out. But Morgan Rodgers, as Ben's quite rightly spoken about there, he got Young Player of the Year as well, didn't he? So that I guess that's a big positive. But yeah, they've might be a little bit of a transitional season, this one, for Aston Villa, potentially. Maybe. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Right, I'll tell you what, guys, we will leave it there. Let us know what you think in the comment section below, guys. Listen, Forest, Postecoglou, whatever. Let us know. We're talking rubbish. Do you agree with what we're saying? Let us know in the comment section below. Go check out Benjamin Bloom's YouTube channel, of course. You will already be there and subscribed, I'm sure. And of course, Matt SB, who's on 150 billion subscribers. and
Mr. Beast, yeah.
Literally.
Matt S. Beast.
Yeah, literally. Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide with a full head of hair. Guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheers.